Hello again, so welcome on board flight Clipper 2, flying to San Diego. I'm currently at 38,000 feet, somewhere over Arizona. Let me turn up the lights a little bit so you can see better on the cockpit and get rid of the yoke. So at the minute we are flying from waypoint 6 to waypoint 7, and waypoint 7 is Imperial, which is the beginning of the star arrival into San Diego. And from Imperial down to the runway it should be about 85 miles. So we'll want to start our descent sometime before we reach Imperial, and we'll decide when later on. So I'm just going to flick some switches in the cockpit because I've loaded this up from a save a second ago. And there's always one or two things that don't carry over. Oh, yeah, there we are. First thing that I'm gonna do is have a look at the before start and descent checks, just so we know what we're gonna need to do. So the engine driven hydraulic pumps, we can have a look at that now, and they're both on and the hydraulic system is fine. Cabin pressure controller, set the land and field altitude. The land and field altitude is pretty much 0, but we don't want to do that yet because we want to keep our cabin pressure where it is for now. And as soon as we turn the dial in, the cabin altitude will start to descend. Windshield heat. So at the minute I'm going to set it to warm up. We had it on full power because we went through a little storm earlier on, and I should have returned it back to warm up, so we'll leave it on there. So have another look at the arrival chart. This point here, Pillow, turbojets, expect to cross at 10,000. Whereabouts is that? That's 48 miles after Imperial. That means we've got 28,000 feet to lose from our current 38,000. I'm probably going to start descending about 40 miles before Imperial. And we'll start the descent down to 10,000. At the minute we're still at 89 miles out from the VOR. We're flying on INS navigation at the minute. I believe, yep, it's currently updating its position from the Imperial VOR. For the approach itself, we do get given the coordinates of all of the points, so in theory I could program it into the INS, but since it's a sort of beacon approach, I'm going to fly it by tuning in the Imperial VOR and the Poggy VOR and finally the localizer. It's the weather in San Diego at the minute. The winds are fix that. The winds are from the west at 9 knots. Good visibility, few clouds, scattered a bit higher up. It's 27 degrees. Altimeter 3004. And there is some distant cumulonimbus off to the east and the northeast, so we may well come across some cumulonimbus and have to avoid that. Is there anything else that we need to look at before we start coming in? Just have a quick run through all of these systems. We've got all of the gens on and synced up to each other. Cabin pressure we already talked about. Cabin compressors are on. Freon is on. Pneumatic systems are fine. Fuel, we did have a bit of a mishap earlier. The tanks are all balanced at the minute, and we're about to exhaust the alternate tanks outboard. We did lose these engines earlier on, and I thought it was because we'd passed through a storm cloud, but actually it was because I didn't transfer the fuel from the alternates to the mains, and we were drawing fuel from the mains, so this engine shut off and then this engine shut off. And that was entirely my fault. This is only my third flight in this aircraft, and it's going to be my third landing, so I'm going to forgive myself for any mistakes like that. We did manage to get the engine started up without too much of a problem as well. And other than that, everything looks fine. We can work out the weight. We've got 28,000 pounds of fuel on board at the minute. I'm just going to write down some quick maths to work out what the weight of the aircraft is, so we can work out our approach speeds and stuff. The zero fuel is 174. So our current weight is 202,000 pounds. So we'll take 200 as a guide. We will burn off some more fuel, but I don't think we'll burn off that much. We can probably plan for a flap 35 landing then. Again, I'm just going to write this down. So I'm going to take my VREF at flap 35 as 135 knots. I think there are some more actually we can make a note of the manoeuvre speeds as well. So flap 25, the manoeuvre speed is 168. Flap 15, it's 173, and at zero flap it's 191. So I'm going to set those on here. We are getting pretty close to our descent now. I said that I wanted to descend about 40 miles before. So we'll just quickly set these speeds. So 135 for the VREF. Flap 25, 173. Gonna sit pretty much on top of it. And flap 0, 191. So those flap speeds are all really close together. Okay, so ready for the descent now. Let's dial down the cabin altitude. I'm going to set it down to 0, and there we go. We haven't started to descend yet, and the cabin altitude is already decreasing. I'm going to set 10,000 on here. and this is just an information thing. It doesn't actually affect the aircraft or the autopilot, but it'll make a noise when we get to 10,000 so that we can hopefully arrest the descent in time. And to actually start the descent, I'm just going to pull back on the throttle, and I'm going to dial down the vertical speed because we're on vertical speed. I'm going to dial that back to about 2,000 feet a minute. I'm also running a little bit of extra kit, which is FS Captain, which is a sort of passenger and dispatch thing. Passengers are getting a snack service at the minute. I'm going to send a message to my dispatch saying that we're at the top descent. And we've got a message back saying that we've got no assigned gate, which is an option that I've selected, telling me the winds are from the west, the altimeter is 3004 and the runways are dry, which we already know. "28 miles to Imperial." I think now would probably be a good time to switch over to radio nav. We'll just fly in on whichever VOR we are on at the minute and turn the nav over to localize a VOR. Fantastic view. This is a lake that you always seem to fly over when you come into San Diego. And it looks a lot better since I got Orbex. All of this looks much more like it does on Google Maps. Let's reduce the throttles a little bit more. We don't overspeed. We've got 16 miles to Imperial. When we reach Imperial, we want to fly on the 258 degree radio. We're currently on the 250, so it'll just be an ever so slight right turn when we get there. Might as well do some sightseeing while we're here. Really close, the aircraft's quite sensitive now to the VOR dial. And what did we say from Imperial? It was 48 miles to Pillow, where we should be at 10,000. I'm going to switch over to head and select. The aircraft is a little bit finicky. We're so close in. So this is the town of Imperial, I guess, below us. overhead now. We've lost the VOR signal, but we know that we're 5 miles from the DME. It's probably 5 miles directly above it. We've got 18,000 more feet to drop. So we're probably just about right on the profile, I would guess. Turn this course to 258. And that's worked out nicely. We're pretty much in line. We can still use the INS for wind information. And the winds currently are from 197 at 5, so winds are calm up here. No sign of the storm clouds anyway. There is plenty more checklists here, so let's have a look through. Approach descent, and the hydraulic system and brake pressure, fine there. And it's fine there. I don't have any spoilers hydraulic pressure, why is that? It is a separate system. And it's something that I haven't read up on yet. Ah, there we go. I've got spoiler hydraulic pressure there. Okay, and it drops down as soon as we do that. Or maybe I'll leave that. Maybe I'll leave that up then. And read about it later. The fuel selectors are all on main. The cross feeds are normal. The tank fill valves are all supposed to be closed, but I actually need them open because I've screwed up the fuel for these tanks. I'll close up the outboards. Turn off those boost pumps. That's fine. Main engine tanks boost pumps are supposed to be off. We've got these off, but we've got these on feed, and that's correct because we've got below 5,000 pounds in each tank. What's the next check? Landing weight, reference speed, approach manoeuvre speeds, and the EPR setting for a go-around. We've done all of that except for the EPR setting for the go-around. And EPR for the go-around is the same as the takeoff EPR. So from sea level, with an outside temperature in Celsius of 25 is the nearest, 1.87. So I'm going to set the engine EPR dials to 1.87, and if we screw up the approach, that's where we'll put the throttles to. .30 miles now. Seems like we didn't lose height as much there as what we were before, so I've idled the throttles and shall we use reverse thrust? Yeah, let's use reverse thrust. In-flight reversers. Nice feature of the DC-8. Only on the inboard engine. We'll bring the speed back to 250. I'm going to set the local pressure now, which was 3007. I'm also going to do an announcement that we're landing soon. Speed's starting to drop off a bit there now. going to move that flap 15 dial up to, I can grab it, to 250. That stands out a bit more. Yeah, we can put the belt sign on. And no smoking as well. That's 260 knots. Yeah, we look to be way too high on this approach. Send at 3,000 feet a minute. At 48 miles, we should be at 10,000. We're at 43 and we're still at 16,000. It's not the end of the world. We'll try and hold it at 250 knots. Now, what's the descent look like after that? 6,000 down to if hedge. 6,000 is where we'll go then. A little bit too fast. I'm going to set the reversers to idle now. There we go. And we better tune in the next bit of the approach. So we want to be on 109.8. And a course of 223. Oops, 223. So there we are, we'll just intercept that point. We're arriving at 10,000 feet now. I'm going to set localize the ILS again and reduce the vertical descent. Also going to extend the landing lights. We'll stop the descent now at 10,000. And then have a little look and see where we should be now. But yeah, we should be going down to 6,000 now. Yeah. Also going to tune nav 2 onto the localizer. .55. there's the signal from the VOR2. The actual approach chart, the localizer, and it's 4000 at VIDA. Altitude alert. Right, 250 knots at the minute. We want to get that reduced really. Put the reversers on and hold this altitude a sec. Level the wings and tune in 111.55. It operates on a heading of 275, which is now we've missed the turn almost there. Let's use head and select. I've let the speed drop far too slow now, so I'm going to set some flaps and landing gear. Can descend to 4000. And we got a stall. I did say this was my third ever landing, and yeah, San Diego manual navigation and stuff is a bit of a hairy approach. I think I'm just going to set flap 35 now. On the spoilers. Got the runway in sight, so let's just take over. I think that will be the safest way to do this. The flaps are set to 35. If we do need to go around, it's straight ahead to 2500. So apologies for totally screwing up that approach. I did plan it as best I could, but everything sort of happened at the same time, and I'm not that familiar with with everything on this aircraft. Especially how the localizer is reversed in San Diego. I'll have to have a look and see what that's all about. I guess it's like a back course. Anywho. let's notify the cabin. Altitude lost. It's nice and smooth to hand fly. Maybe it would have been better just to have hand flown that whole sector, actually, that whole section. Not to worry, we might have stalled, but we didn't. We didn't really stall, we didn't crash, so we did our best. Very pretty, flying into San Diego at sunset. I think that there's an aircraft lining up on the runway there. Yeah, he's going to have to be quick. Otherwise we're going to land on his head. Winds on the INS are showing 240. That aircraft started his roll.
Sink rate. Sink rate. Sink rate.
Fine. Okay, now we are too low. Ooh. Wouldn't want to live in those houses. I'm so ashamed of this approach. So ashamed. Spoilers have extended. Not sure why the whole thing's slowing down. Maybe it's because I'm recording. That's really bad. Really bad.
80 knots. 60 knots.
Welcome to San Diego, where the outside air temperature is 27 degrees. We'll stop here. I think that I'll ask GSX to find us a gate to park at. All too small. And not really a very big aircraft. I mean, come on. Okay. Yeah, let's have a follow me. Oh, you know what? It looks like it might be the gate, like literally straight in front of us. Yeah, it is. Okay. I'm going to revoke the follow me. Turn on the taxi lights. Retract the landing lights. Set the flaps up. Spoilers in. Oops. Spoilers in. So the aircraft's so light now, it's just taxiing ahead of its own accord. It needs so much power when the aircraft's fully loaded. Like half, you need your throttles halfway up or something. Just a few things we need to do now. Anti-skid off. Radar off. Brake pressure monitor, the brake pressure dials are both fine. Transponder, did we even have it switched on for this flight? No, we didn't, because we're flying offline. We've got the stand numbers marked on here. 36, 35. Not sure why there's a UPS cargo aircraft parked at the passenger terminal with an air bridge connected, but hey ho. The marshal is there, but there's a truck in front of him. So I can't actually see what he's telling me to do. Okay, I can see. Let's do it this way then. It's a little bit different, but taxiing on external view. Can we see him now? Oh yeah, we can see him now. Stop there. No APU on this plane, which I have to remember, so we'll keep one engine running. We'll keep engine 3 running, I think. I'm going to turn off all of these boost pumps and things before we do that. Turn the fill off number 2. Alright, so that's those 3 shut down. How do we connect external power? External power is Control and W. Control and W. And then there it is, external power available. So we'll switch over to external power. Now we can shut down that engine. And I'm going to lose the anti-collision and the seatbelt signs and the no smoking signs. There goes Mr. Marshall. Oh wow, so on, let me just check this. So on the flight plan that we filed, we were due in at 1909 local, and we actually got in at 19, about quarter past. That's really accurate, really accurate timekeeping. Considering there's no auto throttle on the plane, I'm quite impressed with that. What did they give us a score for? No takeoff alert. I did give a takeoff alert because it was in the other video, but I think that I left. You flick the no smoking switch, and I think that I flicked it too slow to let the sound play. The next time I'll just flick it and flick it. On time, scheduled arrival. Passengers thought it was a smooth flight, which is good considering we lost 2 engines. And we stalled it above the hills east of San Diego. I'm going to call that stick shaker like the sort of pre-stall warning. So we didn't actually stall, but we were like imminently going to stall. That's what I'm going to call it anyway. We'll proceed with that. What else is next on the checks? I guess I'll just turn everything off on the engineers panel. Generator controls can stay on. We'll leave the lights. We don't need the Freon anymore. We don't need the cabin compressor. We don't need the low pressure pneumatics or the recirculation fans. The fuel things, we've switched off all of the pumps. We leave that fill open. Oil cooler doors. Actually, what do we do with them? I'll just leave them on automatic because I don't actually know what to do with them. Hydraulics off. Hydraulic spare pump off. I'll put the flight spoilers back to normal, and I need to find out why they didn't function. Nothing really to switch off down here. We'll switch off the radios. Overhead, we will switch off the INS units, which got us here safe and sound. Windshield heat off. Probes. I'll switch off the nav lights and the emergency lights, and I think that's it. Flight completed. Turn off the battery switch, and I think that should be it. That is the aircraft basically unpowered. Connect the external power. So there we have it. And we didn't retract the flaps. I thought that I'd retracted them. Maybe not. Oh well, they'll be in that ridiculous position for next time. So thank you for flying with us. Every time I do one of these, then I guess I'll get a little bit better at it. Probably need more practice flying into San Diego. I bought the San Diego airport because it's a difficult approach, but obviously when you fly with VNAV and LNAV, it's a totally different kettle of fish than tuning things in and trying to manage the descent and stuff all at the same time. So yes, I am making excuses. Anyway, I'm going to end it now. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully do another one of these soon. Bye bye.